Hello and welcome to part 2 of Ryding the Spyder. You notice in the title that I spelled Ryding R-Y-D. It's not that I don't know how to spell the word, I deliberately put it that way so it would match with the word spider. The spell check and predictive text and so on didn't like that and wanted to change it to Ryding, but I persisted and ended up with R-Y-D-I-N-G. So Ryding the Spyder. So in the second part of the Ryding the Spyder around Goulburn, and in the last part I talked to you about my trip to Melbourne and some things I discovered about the spider. And in this 15 minutes that I've got today, I'm going to talk to you about motorcycle safety. I've just been watching another video by MC Ryder, which is an American guy who lives in Fort Worth, Dallas, in Texas, and he's accredited with the Motorcycle Safety Foundation of America as an instructor for motorcycle training. And he was talking about some aspects of safety, and so I've talked about this in a few of my videos before, but I thought it was time to talk about it again. Today when I was out walking my dog, I saw two blokes go past me on big cruisers. I think they were Harleys by the sound of them. Both of the riders were in t-shirts, no gloves, jeans, and just ordinary shoes. And I thought, all right, to each his own. It was cool enough for me to need a light jacket on while I was out walking, so I'd have thought they needed at least something warm to keep the chill off. But it just occurred to me that, if you can't afford the safety gear, you can't afford the bike, or you ought not to buy the bike. So I thought I'd talk about those things again. Now, in Australia, in all states and territories, wearing a helmet is mandatory. There are no exemptions, there are no exceptions, there are no reasons not to wear a helmet. And the helmet must be Australian standards approved. So when you buy it, it should have the sticker on it, the back of it, saying that it's Australian standards approved. I believe now that they're also accepting European standards, but be very wise to check with the person you're buying the helmet from, the store you're buying the helmet from, to see if that is correct. It doesn't necessarily follow that the more you spend on a helmet, the safer it is. In fact, MC Ryder was just talking about 3 different helmets that he had tested, and the cheapest one had the 5-star crash rating, whereas the more expensive ones had only 3 and 4-star crash ratings. So it doesn't necessarily follow if you got a $100 head by a $100 helmet and a $1,000 head by a $1,000 helmet. But nevertheless, make sure the helmet you buy is Australian standards approved. It's best to buy a full face helmet because it's been shown with all sorts of research from accidents and so on that does a better job of protecting your head, particularly your jawline, than an open-faced or half face helmet. Some of those ornamental helmets that you see, like the ones with look like the old German army helmets with a spike on top, they're decorative, but they're not approved for riding on the road. You can sort of ride it if you're riding on a track somewhere or riding on private land, or if you're at a show somewhere and you're in a car park maybe, but you cannot ride them if you're on the road because they're not Australian standards approved. So first and foremost, you must wear a helmet. Now everything else is of course optional, but experience would tell anybody that if you trip or fall over, the first thing you're going to do is put down your hands to help break your fall. And therefore, if you come off your bike, the first thing you're going to do is try and put out your hands and arms to try and break your fall. So if you're not wearing gloves, you are going to leave a fair bit of bark on the road. There is no way to avoid that, and that is going to be awfully painful, as well as risking broken knuckles and maybe even losing fingers or two. So it's worth spending some money to make sure that you have good gloves, winter and summer ones being lighter weight but still having good protection around the knuckles and the fingers, and perhaps even going a little bit beyond your wrist, and the winter ones being much warmer but having the same sort of protection, simply because in winter the cold is going to affect your hands. Certainly where I live in Goulburn, it's notoriously cold, and riding south of Goulburn towards Canberra, Queanbeyan and Cooma and that sort of area, it's going to be very cold. And even with heated grips, sometimes winter gloves are you're still going to get some chill through. So it's worth spending some money to get summer gloves and winter gloves, and it's worth wearing them. Now, footwear is probably the next most important thing you can think about. Boots, proper motorcycle boots that come up your calf, are a good idea. In summer they're really hot, I understand that. So if you don't want to wear really long motorcycle boots in summer, then at least get lace-up boots that have got good protection in the toe, and the lace-up because they'll stay on. One of the things that happens in an accident often is that the boots come off. When you have an accident, if your boots are not secure, they come off and then your feet have got no protection. One of the things that MC Ryder pointed out in one of his videos is that many people often ride with their toes pointed outwards. And of course that's fine in most circumstances, but when you lean the bike, because your toes are pointed out, then your toes and the sides of your shoe or boot are more likely to make contact with the road than if they're pointed inwards, of course. If you've got full floorboards, it's probably not so much of a problem because you can move your feet around a bit on the floorboards. But if you've just got pegs, there's not a lot of room to move your foot around. Even if you do, there's really nowhere to place it except with the peg under the ball of your foot or under the arch of your foot. But if your feet are pointing outwards, and sometimes you do that because you want to get some airflow up around your legs and so on, especially in summer, there's a likelihood that when you lean the bike into a curve or a corner, that your feet are going to come in contact with the ground. So good, strong, sturdy boots are probably the next most essential thing. They've got steel caps in the toes, that's extra good. If they've got that little extra flap over the toe on the outside, and that's also extra good, because if you've got a toe shifting gear lever, you're going to wear a hole in the boot fairly quickly. That's one of the things I like about most cruisers. They still have the whole heel and toe shifter, and so you don't have to necessarily put your toe underneath to change up. You can just use your heel to bring the gear shifter up, and your toe to change down. And I'm fortunate with the Spyder that it's a semi-automatic transmission, so I only have to use my thumb and my finger, so that's not an issue. It is an issue sometimes with the pegs and I put my feet out, but because the Spyder doesn't lean like an ordinary motorcycle, my feet are not going to come in contact with the road. Now, the rest of your safety gear, obviously some sort of pants is a good idea, and by that I don't mean football shorts or running shorts or anything like that, because when you come off your bike and hit the road, you're going to leave an awful lot of bark from your legs and your thighs and your backside on the road if you don't have good pants. Now, Kevlar jeans are one option, leather pants are another option, and riding pants that are reinforced and have armour in the knees and the hips and so on are the third option. What isn't an option is just an ordinary pair of jeans, because they have no protection and the denim will just tear through as soon as you hit the gravel, and certainly shorts are not an option. And getting back to the footwear, I see a bloke around Goulburn frequently who rides a scooter. Now, I know it's a scooter, but it's still capable of going at 100 kilometres an hour, and he rides it with thongs. Now, almost inevitably, if he has a fall with that bike, he's going to lose some toes. And it's going to be awfully unpleasant for him when that happens. So, good pants. And in wintertime, those pants are not only going to provide protection against falls on the road, but they're going to provide protection of in terms of keeping you warm. And then there comes to the jacket. Now, again, there are all sorts of options. Leather, of course. The normal riding jackets like the dry riders and so on. And there are other sorts of jackets that have Kevlar reinforcing and so on. You can get a full leather suit, of course, and that's always an option. They're pretty expensive, but as I said earlier, if you can't afford the protective gear, you can't afford the bike, or you ought not to buy the bike. I have a dry rider jacket that I have owned for many years, and it has armour in the shoulders and armour in the elbows, and a turtle shell pad thing in the back. So I'm pretty well protected as far as all of that goes. The thing about jackets is that if they're not colourful, they should at least have the sort of piping at the seams and so on that will make them visible at night. this current trend among motorcycles for blacked out motorcycles, blacked out helmets and blacked out gear means that you are awfully hard to see at night, even in the afternoons when it's dark, getting on to dusk. It's awfully hard for other riders in your group to see you sometimes if you're at the back of the pack, and it's even more difficult for car drivers to see you, especially if they're not looking for you. So if possible, try to get some sort of reflective piping or striping or something on your jacket so that it lights up at night and when the headlights hit it. And the same applies to your helmet. You get an all black helmet, and that probably looks really cool, and you put on a good Darth Vader impression. But the ones that you can get that have colourful panels on them, have reflective stickers that are part of the standard that will light up at night, like those weatherproof pants that you see the SES workers and so on, fire brigade workers that have reflective panels around their legs and arms, are going to be very useful in terms of other people on the road seeing you. So all of that protective gear, so starting again with the helmet and decent good quality gloves that have got knuckle protection on them, boots or shoes that are good firm strong footwear that either clip or zip or both, or if not you get good sturdy work boot type things with steel caps and strong laces, and pants that don't go out in the pair of trousers or pants that you're going to wear around the office. Put on protective clothing that keeps out the elements for one thing, but secondly, and more importantly, protects you in the event of you having a fall. Now, I'm very fortunate, as I say, that I ride a Spyder which has 3 wheels, 2 wheels at the front, and I feel very safe on that bike, but the chances of it tipping over or me dropping it, well, there's no chance of me dropping it because it just can't happen, but the chances of it tipping over are minimal. Nevertheless, I want to be protected because I've not only got to think about what I do as a rider, I've got to think about what other people on the road do, not just other motorcyclists who may be riding with me, but other people in cars who are distracted by whatever they're doing in their car, finding the radio station, tuning to the latest podcast and so on. And after they've collected you, they give you the SID sim, sorry I didn't see you mate expression. Buying a bike, a great idea. Riding a bike, great. A wonderful way to get out and enjoy the road and enjoy the elements, but make sure that you spend a decent amount of money, get good safety equipment and wear it, and think, well, I'm only just going down the corner shop to get some chocolate or get some milk and bread, but you can have an accident driving 100 metres because somebody coming out of their driveway doesn't see you, or somebody doesn't give way at the roundabout, or somebody thinks you're on a little bike and so it's just easier to stop. So you can have that accident going a couple of 100 metres or a couple of kilometres, and you can have the same accident if you're driving 500 kilometres in a day. So put that protective gear on and wear it for your own safety and protection. All right, well, that's about all I wanted to say about safety gear for the day. So you just see at the end of the video here, I'm reversing my Spyder into my yard here. It has a full reverse gear rather than electronically speed limited. So you need to pay a bit of attention when you are reversing. And sometimes it's necessary to take your helmet off because it doesn't have a reversing camera, which I think would be a great idea. And of course your helmet does provide a couple of blind spots, and it's difficult to see, especially you see where I'm trying to come into my yard there, and I'm trying to avoid collecting any of the plants, and I'm also trying to avoid collecting the motor vehicle that's in the front yard there as well. All right, thanks everybody for watching. I hope you've enjoyed today's video, enjoyed the scenery, and my thoughts on safety gear have given you some reason to stop and think about the gear you have and what you do when you get on your bike. And next time you get out on your bike, you'll say, gee, that bloke said I should put my safety gear on, and that's not a bad idea. Maybe I'll do that. All right, I might see you out on the road. Remember, it's not how fast you're going, it's where you're going and the ride itself that you're enjoying. So enjoy your ride safely, and hopefully I'll see you out on the road somewhere.